4, 3, 2, 1. Walk with me through the cellar door.
The storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Oh, welcome to another episode of Cellar Door Skeptics. We are on 168, folks. 168. It's not as good as 666, but it's pretty damn close.
Man, I tell you what, if we make it all the way to episode 666, I don't know how many years that is in weeks. 50 weeks roughly. So, that's what is that?
That's 12.8
12
years. It's
12
almost
years.
13 years.
Yeah, there's no way.
We'll be so old. We'll be like, hey, Hannah, we are old people now. It'll be like, like a kid's cartoon, except for with you and me cussing about how much we still hate Trump, 12 years later. Because he'll be like the supreme dictator by then, and it'll just be you and I like, yeah, we still hate Trump.
Speaking of long presidencies, I watched Watchmen again for the first time since I saw it in theaters years and years and years ago. I don't know if you remember much of Watchmen or if you read the comic. How Nixon was president for like 5 terms, 6 terms. Like,
yeah, it's insane.
I started sweating during that part where they were talking about it. I started sweating, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But yeah, no, I think about the time period in the future and stuff like that. Like what we'll be doing, what kind of things will be interesting. Podcasting, will it still be something that people do? Will we be holograms that we stand in front of our computer and our 3-dimensional selves will be broadcast into someone's VR eyewear? So I'm super excited about what's going to be happening with the future and everything. But like, I don't know, man. 13 years of trying to figure out a way to do an hour-and-a-half show with you. I don't know.
I don't know either. But I could tell you recently, my friend, there is I was on Facebook, and I shouldn't be on Facebook as much as I am, but I've had a friend of mine passed away from high school last weekend. Right, so you kind of scour, you want to know why, you got to look for funeral information. So I've been on a little bit more, and this ad comes up, probably because I'm a Nintendo fanatic, about a Kirby restaurant. Literally, this Kirby restaurant in Japan. I'm dead serious. I know it's a promotional ad, but it's like there's a Japanese Kirby cafe, and I'm sitting here thinking, holy crap! Now, Kirby is a lot more lovable than you and I. Neither one of us are round marshmallow puffballs that can eat people and turn into whatever they are. But he's been around since '92.
I remember the first Kirby NES games. Like those were like ISO, like it's like a 30-degree over-the-shoulder platformy kind of game. They were good, man. I mean, you could like suck in air to float, do like the double jump. I remember yelling at that a lot.
I believe he first appeared, I think it was Game Boy. I don't think it was Nintendo. I think actually he was on Game Boy first and then went to Nintendo. I could be wrong. God.
I remember seeing early Kirby stuff in color, and then the original Game Boy, obviously, in the green and darker green, or yellow and green. But man, I really want to say that it was on NES, because like Game Boy didn't really get a lot of unique games. It got ports of things that were successful on the main console, but it's possible. I mean, and that's a pretty complex game for Game Boy to be like starting out. But either way, Kirby was pretty cool. But like, Japan does a lot of restaurants like that, though. Like they have all kinds of really, really intense theme things. Like they were some of the first places that had games, like game themed restaurants where like you would go in and play old consoles and like everything like that. So there's some really my favorite thing of all time that ever existed. It doesn't exist anymore. But there was a restaurant bar that was actually designed by H.R. Geiger, the guy who designed all of the aliens in the Alien movies. And he had a restaurant that was designed entirely with his alien designs, and so it looked like the inside of an alien spaceship. Like it had the bones and the skulls that were really phallic looking. Like
that would be awesome.
Yeah, and it was called the Geiger Bar, and it was like nuts. And that was the only like theme thing that I've ever seen that I would be like, I would go to another country to go in that building.
Well, it's kind of funny because my daughter, my youngest, is obsessed with Kirby. Like,
really,
she loves Kirby more than you can. Like, I don't know.
Like Smash Bros. Kirby? Does she know like old Kirby or like
all Kirby? I have a Raspberry Pi that I have a bunch of ROMs loaded on. The other weekend, we actually played some of the older Kirby stuff. She's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe we're playing this, Dad." I was like, "Yeah, you know I have the real games in the basement, right, honey?" "Oh, you do?" Yeah, I do. I still have those old systems. But she just loves Kirby, and like pretty much ever since she's been like 3 or 4, we've played Kirby. You know, we used to play Mario. She likes the Mario series too. But you know, on the original Wii, there was a Kirby game. And I can't remember what it was called, but there was a Kirby game that came out for the Wii. And, you know, essentially it was, we bought that, and she was real young, and she just liked it. And Kirby's an easy game. So, like, you can play Kirby, you can do all these things, and it's an easy thing for a younger child to catch on to.
Yeah, it's a platformer in the vein of Mario, but it's kind of like happy and you know, a little softer. Like, it doesn't like laugh at you when you fall in the hole and die. You know what I mean? Like some of those games, like you play in like Contra, the side scrollers, where you're like, you died. Also, yes. I did look it up. It's Kirby's Dream Land. It was out in 1992 on Game Boy. So yeah, that was the first one, and then they ported everything out to the big systems after it was successful on Game Boy, which is insane.
Yep.
But it's pretty cool.
My daughter has Kirby plush toys, like that she used to sleep with. That's how much she likes Kirby. When the new Kirby game came out, I had to buy it for her birthday of the Switch last year. And essentially she wanted that game. It came out before her birthday or after her birthday. I don't remember which. But either which way, as soon as it came out, she literally like went and sat in the living room and said, "Okay, is it here yet, Dad? Is it in the mailbox? Did it come via Amazon? How is it going to get here? When can I play this? I know you bought that for me. Don't even lie to me."
Call Jeff Bezos, tell him to hurry up. Like, I know you have his number. Get on the phone. I need my Kirby.
and I think we played that game on the Switch for God, it had to been like almost a month and a half straight. And then I was kind of like, we've already played these levels like 5 times, honey. We've beaten this game 3 times. We don't need to play this anymore. No. It's fun. And then they released, you know, additions to it, and then we had to go back and play all the expansion things and blah blah blah. It's just, anyways, I see this and I can't wait to show her this tomorrow because, you know, I saw this on my Facebook today and it was just like, oh, that's weird. They have a Kirby restaurant, and how hard is it to get your kid a passport? And how much would it cost me to fly to Japan just to eat at that restaurant and fly home? Like, can I do this for under $1,000?
It'd probably be like. No, I think your airfare alone would be like $1,200-$1,300 a person.
Yeah, and that's not worth it to go eat at a restaurant. But
no, but if you're gonna go on vacation, going to Tokyo might be the coolest thing. Like that's my wife and I have talked about like our your dream place. Like if you could go on vacation to any one place you want, anywhere in the world, no baggage, no stress, no anything. You can just go in Japan and Tokyo, and then doing some of the other things in the more rural areas. So like seeing some of the temples and seeing some of the farmland in Japan. But I mean, really just getting to spend some time in Tokyo. The big thing is because like when you're a tourist and you go in and you spend like 2 days in a city, like you're essentially just like licking the crust, the icing on the side of the cup. Like you're not getting anything real. But like if you can spend some substantive time in a city, so like my wife was in Italy and France, and she was there for like 6 weeks at a time. And so like you get enough time to like settle in and like really see what it's like to live there and what the people are like and what the environment's like. Like for me, like I would do Japan like that. Like if I could do 6 weeks in Japan and like That is the dream for me. Like that's the one country in the world that I would be like, without a question. It won't even take me a minute to see. Like that's the one for me. I love their culture and all that stuff. And I know that's, nerd fanboy in me is like that, and there's a lot of people like that. But still, that's regardless of how cliche it is, I would love to do all those things.
And for me, here we go. For me, there we go. We're changing the episode. But for me,
yeah, we might have to. Sometimes it just turns into one of those shows.
But for me, it would be, I think the discussion would be a little different, right? For me, it would be, do you have your kids or not, right? If I had my kids with me, it would be completely different. And
yeah,
I don't disagree with you. I would like to go to Japan, but I think for me, the bigger thing would be either to go to Ireland or to Scotland. And it's kind of a toss up, right? And
we could do them both because they're on the same.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, can I just do the whole thing? And like for me, that would be the big thing because I would want to stop in a lot of local pubs. I would want because, and maybe this is just a fantasy in my head, but I imagine going to Scotland and Ireland and hitting these pubs on the weekend and them having just amazing music, like local music. There's this band called Skinny Lister. I don't know if you ever heard of this band or not, but they opened for, I believe it was Flogging Molly. And this has got to be 6 years ago. And it was just a random thing back when the Orbit Room existed. And we went and had gotten free tickets to go see Flogging Molly because my buddy won a Halloween contest. Man, this is at least 6 years ago. And anyway, we got these free tickets. So we went. And we always go see the openers. And my buddy's like, screw it, it's free.
I love seeing the openers, man.
This band is like authentic British pub music. I mean, we're talking, they had a cello, they got a lady, running around dancing, they got violins. I mean, it's like, and it's knee slapping, talking
That's
about
cool.
drinking. Like you can't pass this up. And like when I saw them, in fairness, when I saw Skinny Lister, they are one of my top favorite bands ever, period. Like hardcore favorite bands. And that's only because I saw them. I mean, like, they got down in the crowd, and that was the best thing. Like, we had this weird, like, British-Irish dance that they were, like, teaching everybody to do while they're playing their music. And you're like, holy crap. They're, like, interacting in the crowd. Nobody's angry. Everybody's smiling. Everybody's drunk. And, like, they were encouraging everybody, drink more. This is fun. Nobody gets angry. And it's just, like, this is weird because usually metal shows, everybody's like, like, oh, I'm getting drunk and I'm beating your ass and then we're coming back. But
there was a study that just came out. I saw that they did an analysis of like heavy metal, and they found that actually the response that fit the psychological response that most people have to heavy metal is actually joy and energy. And it's something that I've seen multiple times is that, like, I had someone that when I was in college, they asked me, they're just like, oh, you listen to heavy metal all the time? Are you depressed or something? And I was like, no, you don't understand. Country western music, like bluegrass, that's depressing music. See, my music is about killing other people. But anyways, like two of the bands that I like in that same vein of what you said. What was the name of the opener?
Skinny Lister.
Like the Dropkick Murphys are a really good one, and as well as the Stanfields. Those guys, like they do the same thing that you're talking about. Like they have drinking songs. They have songs where they're singing, pub songs that have, the sing along chorus where everybody in the pub sings along. One song that I recommend anyone to check out. It's Miss McGrath from the Stanfields on YouTube. Just check out the video. The chorus is just a bunch of ooh-rai, va-di-di-di-ay, ooh-ra, like the whole thing. It's like it's a sing along, and it's all about like the Irish drinking pub culture and like the wars and all the famines and stuff. It's just really cool things. Like I do understand where you're coming from on that. Like Flogging Molly is right in there as well. It's something that I've gotten into more over the years. The last couple years to be exact, because I love to throw it on at the shop when there's no other music playing. So like it's just me by myself, and I can just turn on some northern British, northern Irish, Scottish pub rock, pub punk. It's pretty cool stuff. There's another Scottish band that I can't think of their name right now, but they do some really cool songs. One's about I'm so unlucky. It can't get any worse. Like, it can't get any worse than this. My luck is so bad. It's just great. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, and it's weird because, you know, I mean, as everybody knows, I played in a ska band, right? And so, like, I'm a little partial to ska music, but, you know, I reject it for a long time. And it's weird. I have a friend when I met my wife. She had a friend that used to hang out, and then him and I became pretty close friends. And he comes over quite a bit, and he's really good friends with me and her. And he got me back into ska. Like, I've seen Streetlight Manifesto 3 times, and it's weird because I was like, I'll never go see this. And then I saw them, I was like, all right, fine. You're correct. This is really good. You know, Bloggy Moggy, really good. Dropkick Murphys, really good. You know, so I've seen all of them, you know, a staple of times. I've
never seen Streetlight, but I imagine that is like a really political show. Like, I can imagine a bunch of like political science majors just in the background, just grumpy.
Well, and I'm sad. 2 years ago they retired, and we missed their going away show in Grand Rapids, and we should have gone, but you know, it was kind of one of those things. And I'll be honest, I'm not very good at doing concerts and things like that.
Not anymore, man. Life is different.
But it was just funny because, you know, they came around and then we forgot about them. And then I messaged him this week. I was doing research on Skinny Lister concerts, ironically enough. And, you know, we were sitting there, and I was like, damn it, we just missed Streetlight Manifesto in Detroit 4 months ago in November. What the hell is wrong with us? That would have been awesome. Now they're doing an acoustic show in Chicago, and I probably won't go to that because that's just off the charts. But how about this? Here's another band, right? This brings back to our discussion on Christian conservative talk shows or music bands that I used to listen to. MXPX, right?
Oh yeah,
and I told you how the guy's an atheist now and all that.
Yeah, no, I've seen a whole bunch of his stuff.
So guess what? They in January they announced they're going to do a show with Five Iron Frenzy in Chicago, a 2-day show. And I was like, okay, there's no way tickets will ever sell out. So my buddy and I talked about it, and he's like, I don't want to go. And I'm not going to go to Chicago by myself. That's just, I don't know, I just can't do that. That's too far for me to go by myself.
Yeah, that's no joke.
That's a lot. And then
you can't just like sleep in your car in Chicago or somewhere like that. So
no, I would have to get a hotel all for myself. Yeah. And, you know, we're talking now $300 with gas and all the time, you know. And it's like, okay,
and all that, yeah.
I would love to see them again. And their new album is really amazing, actually. And it's not Christian anymore, so I can listen to it and not feel guilty. And anyway, so about 2 weeks later, my buddy messaged me back. He's like, okay, hey, you know what? I agree with you. Screw it.
Let's do it.
Let's go. So then I go, okay, no problem. Yep. 2 days after he told me, they sold out. And I'm sitting here like, man. And so I've been looking for tickets literally for 2 months.
I'm sure they have
now.
them on StubHub.
Oh, they are. You want to know how much they are?
$200.
Oh, that's a good guess. Yeah, they start at like $95, and it's like the ticket originally was $25.
I know. I can't
even pay $50.
I honestly think it should be illegal for people to resell tickets for anything more than the value they were purchased for. It drives me insane. There's like some of the best concerts, some of the best shows, some of the best games. You know, you go to the World Series or something, like you have people that are completely uninterested at all in the event, in the game, in whatever. It's just a bunch of jerks who buy up everything they can so they can stick it to you because you love it and they know that you love it. So you increase the demand, and you know, in their capitalistic worldview, they think that that's a great thing that they can just stick it to you because you really want to see this thing or whatever, because you may never see it again. Like my father and I spent over $700 and something for 2 tickets to see the Tigers World Series in 2010 against the Giants, and like that's fine. That was worth every penny, because that was, you know, the Tigers may never be to the World Series again in my father's lifetime, and that was the first time he ever went to Comerica Park. So like it's an event. It was a wonderful thing, but like I hate that ticket scalpers, man. They just bugs me.
Well,
I don't know.
Did I tell you about what happened with the 9 Inch Nails show in Detroit last year?
No.
So I thought we talked about it, but maybe we didn't. So last year in May, my buddy and I, so I'm just, if nobody can figure this out, I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, just like off the charts. Like they are probably one of my favorite bands. And if like my daughters always like to do this now, their new thing is if you could only do this for one time, or if you only had one thing you could have for the rest of your life, you know, blah, blah, blah. So if I had to pick one music out of everything else to listen to, it would be Nine Inch Nails, because the breadth and variety of it is just off the charts.
They have a huge swath of stuff that they've done, from their electronica to their metal to their prog. Like, it's a good group. Trent's a pretty sweet musician overall. Like, I mean, he reminds me of some of the guys like Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam, how he's into like this like folky stuff now, and he did the whole soundtrack for Into the Wild. Like, that was a sweet, like, Hard Sun. That was the wedding song for my wedding on when we finished up everything for the ceremony. Like, it just, the whole thing about, like, you know, the son basically, like, what was it? It was basically like watching over, and like, you know, it's just hard, but it's true and everything. Like but like, you listen to the stuff that he did when he did the 90s, like, grungy stuff. I mean, it's just a wide breadth of things. Like, Trent has always been that way. Like, when Johnny Cash took his song Hurt, and Trent was like, yeah, that's your song now. Like, it's just, I mean, he's got a ton of stuff that he's done. It's really cool.
Yeah. And I agree with you, obviously. But, you know, so that was that was
Trent's great.
Yeah, I can't help myself. But so what happened was, last year we discovered that he was going to release tickets, and he literally came out and said, guess what? You're not going to get any online tickets. Be at the venue. Show up at the venue and buy the tickets in person. We're freaking out because it's in Detroit, right? We actually, me and my buddy
Trent said this.
Oh yeah,
yeah. No, he notoriously absolutely hates Ticketmaster.
Yeah, and he was like, it was like off the chart. Like, be in line in the venue. And so my friend and I, we talked. I mean, I've seen Nine Inch Nails 7 to 8 times now, somewhere in there. I've seen them a lot. You know, pretty much almost any time they come around, I've seen them pretty much since '99. You know, it's just the Fragile tour was my first actual show, and it was either '99 or 2000. I can't remember. And I had to sneak out of my parents' house for that. So, but anyway, you know, so it was just, that side of it was amazing, because it was just.
Well, you got the high from like sneaking out of your house to a metal show or a rock show and all that.
I did that with Rob Zombie.
That's pretty
too,
romantic, dude. Like, that's almost like if you were meeting a girl there, that would be the actual plot for a romantic comedy. Like, it really would.
But when he released that, we freaked out because, you know, my friend, his girlfriend, she's a couple years younger than us, and you know, she's seen him. She's went with us a couple of times, and she's like, no, I really want to go. His new EP stuff is really amazing. And I was like, no offense, I'm not driving to Detroit to sit in line to buy tickets. I can't, I'm not going to take a day off of work, of all things, to do that. And so she's like, you know what? I'm going to commit to do that. If that's what we got to do to get tickets, that's what we'll do.
Wow.
Well, it comes out the day before. He goes, I'll tell you what, I'm going to release them. If they don't sell out, I'll sell them online, but we're going to put a limit on the tickets or something like that.
Yeah, so you can't be a scalper, really. Like, you get like 2 tickets or something like that. That's cool.
So we got the 3 tickets we needed. We went. It was, I have pictures on my Facebook. You can go back to October and look. It was one of the most amazing shows. He played Perfect Drug, of all things. He played I'm Not Afraid of Americans. Neither one is anything he likes to play. And the one he's like, yep, this is my tribute to Bowie, fuck you. And then like he goes into, you know, I'm Afraid of Americans. You're like, holy shit. Like, he never plays this. Like, this is like classic Reznor that is not available.
Yeah, some
concert.
people, some concerts, like the artists will be like, I'm playing only the new stuff from the new album, none of the old stuff that you guys came here to hear. And like, sometimes I like that. Like, I don't like it when like I go see a band that's played the same, like they're playing all their hits, and it's like, dude, I saw that you played all these songs the last time I saw you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, some bands, you know, you want to hear like the new album, you want to hear them really riff it hard on the new, and then maybe a couple of the older songs. But Trent is one of those guys that doesn't like to play too much of his older stuff, because I mean, once you gotta think about it, those guys played that song like 100,000 times. They're like, I'm done with that song. But like, it's pretty cool that he pulled out. You know, Perfect Drug was like, I think that was one of their first big mainstream hits, as far as I know.
No, it wasn't. It was a commercialized hit for a movie. That's it. It was not.
Well, that was no, I mean like the first big one that actually was on like on MTV. Like
no.
What was big of theirs before Perfect Drug? That was like, you know, radio and MTV and stuff.
Head Like a Hole, Sin. Head Like a Hole was a big one.
Was Head Like a Hole was before Perfect Drug then?
Oh yeah. Pretty Hate Machine is well before Perfect Drug, because that's off of a soundtrack. It was a song for a soundtrack. And so little weird tangent history, but you know, he did all his Pretty Hate Machine recordings and all this because he had worked at a recording studio to some extent, and that's
so
how
he get in and do what he wanted.
Yeah, so he was able to use it on the side. That's how he made Pretty Hate Machine. Got a contract, got signed. Actually, he made an EP before that, and that's what got him signed, right? And then he was signed. I can't remember the name of the record label off the top of my head because I'm too old for this. But whatever record label he was on, they essentially wanted him to produce commercial hits on demand, and he basically got really angry and was like, "Screw you." So
yeah,
you know,
I can see him not wanting to be a part of the cog of that machine, like that, you know, the record company machine. I can see him being like, "No, I have artistic integrity. Screw you guys."
Especially in the early 90s, right? You know, that's essentially where, you know, that whole thing. I mean, it's that grunge era, right? You know.
Well, like, I mean, you don't want to start your career by being someone's chess piece that you do exactly what they want you to do and you move around like a pawn. You know what I mean? Like, when you're young, you're a little bit more in earnest and you're going to be like holding true to your ideals. And then maybe when you're older and you got 20 years under your belt, you'd be like, yeah, I'll do this, but you don't have to put my name all over it or something. But Trent's one of those guys.
TVT is the name of the record label back in the early 90s. And then so that he released the album Broken, which I'll be frankly honest and say that's my second favorite album. And depending on my mood, it's my actual favorite album. And it's only because the way Broken is written and recorded, because what they did is it's layers upon layers upon layers. So he could play guitar part of the song, and then he would play it in an octave lower and an octave lower than that. Like it's multiple layers. So it's metal within metal. It's like Inception metal. There you go.
Yeah.
Inception metal. You know.
We should hashtag that and see if it's a real thing or not. I'm sure there's some grunge core or something, some group out there is like, we thought of this first, but no, Trent Reznor did it in '94.
Yeah, and that was always the amazing thing, you know, about Reznor was that, right? Is that he had that's what got me into Nine Inch Nails was Broken, not actually Pretty Hate Machine. You know, and then the first album I ever saw was The Fragile, right? You know, and you know, for me, The Fragile, because there's so many things that go into that. And The Fragile was his least commercial release, period. But that was like the epic, and maybe we're just reminiscing again, right? Maybe we're just reminiscing fools, but
well, like least commercial, like it was like the most like avant-garde and not acceptable.
Yes, think of it as like a mini magnum opus to some extent.
So he was doing, you know, some experimental stuff then. That's cool.
Yeah, The Fragile, because it's 2 discs. It's 2 discs. It has all sorts of it's like reading a book. Like the whole point of it is to tell a story. And again, this is at the exact same time Manson was doing his, you know, magnum opus too, right? He had Antichrist Superstar, Mechanical Animals, and then he released Hollywood, which is like it was for him it's the rise of the rock star. And then you know, to be honest with you, anything, you know, like Golden Age of Grotesque is actually, I like that album a lot. But anything after that, I'm done with them.
But it's its own thing, yeah.
Now, weirdly enough, talking about reminiscent stuff, right? Back, there's a group on. Rob Zombie and Manson just happened to be doing a tour together in August this year. And I text my buddy. I was like, "Hey, do you want to go to this?" He's like, "I really do, but I don't want to pay all the money because it's at Van Andel." And I was like, "All right, so if we get it, if I see a deal, I'm buying them." Groupon had like buy one get one for like I don't know 30% or something like that. Yeah, so it's like basically you're paying a little bit less than 50% of the ticket value. It was like sold. Oh, and we avoid Ticketmaster fees. Sold again. It was so we're going to see them in not great seats. I mean, we're in upper balcony, but we're in like upper balcony corner row A seats like 1, 2, and 3 or something like that.
That'd be a decent spot.
So yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, like the zombie.
$30.
Yeah,
you can't pass that up.
I saw that they mashed up Hellfest and Knotfest this year, and so Slipknot, Zombie, who's the other one? Manson, like a bunch of like I guess 1998 to 2002's biggest dudes.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, we're getting a little poor here. We need to come back and we gotta get the 30 to 50-year-olds to come like our music again. They don't like anything we've released, so let's play our old crap and let's redo this. And I would go see Slipknot again. I would go do that. I like Slipknot. Not that much, but I like them.
Slipknot's got they got a new release coming out. They haven't released the name of it is, but they have a new album coming out, and so they're starting promotional tour for that in Europe, and they're coming over into the US in the summer. I'm curious to see what it is. Like Slipknot and Corey Taylor have kind of like probably my favorite band of all of the bands is Fear Factory because it's very simple, it's mechanical, and it's what you see is what you get. Like Slipknot has gotten layered, and there's all kinds of drama and stuff in it. I mean, there's 9 guys in the group, so that's one of those things that just it turns into it's its own thing now. But like I'm curious to see what it'll be like this summer. I don't get to see too many new albums. I have XM Sirius Radio, so I listen to Liquid Metal, and you hear new bands and you hear new stuff on there, which is nice. But like I've been trying to find new. So anyone that's got any good metal, if you hear us talking about all this 1994 metal, send us some new stuff. Send us what you're listening to now, because like I've been looking for new things, because lately it's like I'm on old man radio. I was listening to Darwin's on the Origin of Species and NPR. Like that's all I listen to now. So like I'm trying to find new music, because when I do turn music on, I've heard almost all those songs.
I got some.
You got some new stuff?
I do. You're a little more tame than me, but I got 2 bands you should check out.
I like cordant music. So like there's cordant and discordant. I like cordant. So like Fear Factory, drums, bass, guitar, even the vocals all kind of line up and chord progressions.
But they don't always though. They don't always.
The techno stuff, it when they get the electronic stuff, it'll get a little bit more discordant.
So there's a band called The Armed, and there's a band called Annihilated.
I think I know Annihilated. I think I've heard that on Liquid Metal.
Yep. The other band that's hitting my my tunes is called Make Them Suffer. And you will
Make Them Suffer.
Yes, you will like them. They're an Australian band. They opened for the Acacia Strain last year.
Oh, I like the Acacia Strain. And
I do too. You should go with us. We're going to go this year. But
I know they're going to be in town in like a couple months, I think, isn't it?
So I think so. Yeah,
I remember seeing something they were
broadcasting
or something. Yeah, whatever. Anyways.
But the Make Them Suffer opened for them, and I never heard of this band before. None of us had heard of them. We'd only heard like 1 or 2 songs. And I can't believe my buddy actually likes them. It's like black metal meets actual like hardcore death metal with a little bit of vocals. But they are amazingly like chordish, if that's what you want to call it. Like that's a weird terminology.
Well, basically what
chordish
is like,
weird, but
it's cordant and discordant. So like when you're listening to music, like when you have something that's cordant, what you have is you'll have clean chords that are crisp, and they won't be in a minor key. They'll usually be in major key, and bands like Fear Factory are one of the greatest examples of that in metal, because what you're getting essentially is like it's clean rhythm, and it's there's not a lot of like background static. And like discord would be something like Decapitated and
Amazing band.
maybe, yeah, I know, but like when you listen to it, like there's if it's something that you're not familiar with, where you know a lot of the pieces, like you hear a lot of white noise and there's a lot of things going on all at the same time. With like Fear Factory and some of those more rhythmic bands, like it's like dun, 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 like, but in the rhythm in the chord progressions might be a little slower, but they're pronounced, they're clean and clear, and that's basically coordinate. And the discordant would be like some of the palm muting wouldn't be as clean, and then some of the notes are in the minor keys and they're broken keys, or maybe they're not even a complete power chord. It'll be a partial power chord, or they're doing a bar chord, which when you mute a bar chord, you're hitting 4 or 5 strings, and it's not as clean as a normal palm mute, where it's just tun tun tun. So like the sound you get has all kinds of background and effects, like the things that all the guys did in the Norwegian black metal band, so like Death and what are the bands into the guys that the guy killed himself and they took pictures, and then Varg, whatever. I can't remember the Norwegian death metal bands that the whole drama thing about, like the one guy who burned all the churches, Vargensen or something like that. Well, anyways, like their music, like what they did was they intentionally recorded on really poor and crappy machines, and they used a headphone set as a microphone, so like it was staticky and it was crackly and it was broken, like that kind of thing. Like I don't usually gravitate towards that, and some bands, they ride on that sound, and so like I like the clean, crisp, like overly engineered metal, and so like it's just something. I think it has something to do with my hearing loss. That everything I hear is kind of scratchy and staticky, and like I'm always trying to hear. It's always just muddled and messy. It's like I think I like it when it's clean, and I know exactly what the note is, because I know that it's not my hearing that's causing a trouble. It's the music is designed to be crisp and clear like that. I don't know. It's a weird thing that I just who knows why you like what you like sometimes, but like that's one of the reasons why I like Fear Factory, is because like it's hard for me to hear, and so when I listen to them, I know
it's like technical metal. You like technical death metal. You like technical.
Yeah, that would work. It's something that's a little bit more specific. So.
Technically, yeah. I just used the word, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
so like
Varg,
the stuff that you mentioned,
the Pyrenees. I looked it up. I did not know this. Yeah, I did not know this.
Yeah,
this is news to me,
dude. You need to see the documentary. It's
Lords of Chaos. Is that the name of it?
Into the what?
What's the name of the documentary?
It's like Into the Night or something like that. It's a documentary on Varg Vikernes. Yeah, that's what it was. And they did basically a doc, like those are the guys that started they started the whole like Norwegian death metal stuff. Like it's awesome. I highly recommend Until the Light Takes Us. That's what it's called.
Go. Okay. So I was to say, Into the Night is definitely not.
Yeah, no. It's just one of those things. It's just in my head. So Until the Light Takes Us, I highly recommend it. Anyone and everyone who loves this tangent that we're on into the musical worlds of Chris and Chris, like that one is worth every moment. Especially if you're an atheist, you'll see some of the weirder things that comes from the godless countries, because like Varg is like, he is an atheist and he hates the Christian church coming into his country and doing things, but he is an incredible racist and a horrible person too. So like you're like, oh cool, he hates the religious oppressors and like the people who were trying to spread Christianity into their country, and they actually like harmed and hurt people for a long time. And then he's like, yes, so I'm gonna kill them all. Like it's just what I mean. Like it's really bad. It's horrible. And like I don't know, just one of the things when you see that slippery slope go down, and you're just like, this is a very easy distinction, but it's something that we have to deal with in the non-believer community. It's like, that's the guy that everybody looks at and they're like, he's a non-believer and he burned all the churches and tried to kill people. It's like, dude, come on, that's not what we're doing here. But I don't know, Until the Light Takes Us is awesome, and you would really like that.
Yeah, I just wrote it down, and while we're talking, I texted my buddy. I was like, hey, this weekend, you want to watch this? We're gonna watch this.
You're gonna learn about you're gonna learn about Euronymous. Oh man, it's gonna be so cool. You're gonna find some new metal that you probably never heard before. Then it's pretty cool. I'm excited, dude. Maybe you'll do a review of the doc or something. If anybody wants, yeah, we can do it. Maybe we'll do that next week.
So speaking of documentaries, though, right? Did I tell you about did I tell you about the mockumentary Australian vampire movie I watched?
Movie? Because there's like a vampire TV show mockumentary, I think.
Well, it's coming out. It's not out yet. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's
It is the same one.
It's the same.
Yeah, things in the night or something like that.
Yeah. And all I could tell you is that, so my son wanted to watch it, and I was like, I don't really want to. I don't want to do that. And it's called What We Do in the Shadows.
What We Do in the Shadows. I was close.
Yeah. It's What We Do in the Shadows. And I finally just caved in on the one weekend.
Sometimes you have to. Like, every once in a while, I'll flip through Netflix and be like, everything sucks. And people told me this was good. It looks dumb. And then you give it a shot and you like it. And that's kind of what happens every once in a while. So this is one of those things.
Yeah, it was my kid recommended this because he goes, Dad, you like The Office. You like Parks and Rec. You're going to like this. I'm like, no, I'm not. He's like, no, seriously. And then
as my first thought when I saw it was like if someone did like a horrorcore version of The Office when I saw the previews.
Yes, a comedy hardcore version though. It's all comedy. Like it's all ultra dry humor. Like there is one portion.
Is it like Trailer Park Boys or is it?
I don't know. I don't watch Trailer Park Boys at all. But maybe
that's the only one I've seen like that. I don't know. It's like I don't know. It's intentionally awkward and like dry. So like I'm gonna guess it's probably in the same boat. Or like we'll do something that's like they'll say things to each other that are so fundamentally absurd that you're just like, that's weird.
Like the one guy, this is the best. The one guy has like an apprentice that's helping him get people to come to the thing so he can kill them and drink their blood. And it's funny, like, they do an interview with her, and she, like, talks all about how I've been doing this, I'm on the track, he's gonna churn me one of these days, and then, like, it cuts to him in the same club in a different seat, and he's like, no, not gonna do that. Not gonna do that at all.
Oh, well, she's like,
she's a vampire, like, she's bringing people for the vampires to eat.
Yeah, she's like the assistant, she's like Renfield.
Yes. But it's just funny because she's all gung ho. She thinks he's gonna do it. He's like, no, I'm a piece of crap. I'm not gonna do this.
Is she like fangirling it out?
Oh yeah, like I want to be a vampire, and then she ends up getting in as a vampire. And then later they go to this like all dead party, like this demon party where it's like all these dead things, and it's like you're just like, where did this come from? Like, out of the blue, they're all like, let's go to this party. Like, we don't want to go. It's all horrible. And they all go to this party. And you're just like, and it's all awkward. It's like them in a VFW hall type, thing, whatever they have that in Australia. Man. And they're all like drinking, doing weird dancing. And
so basically, like, if you took all your favorite, I guess, Bram Stoker, Dracula type bad,
yes.
And then put them in like a high school dance.
Yes. And it was it's like super mockumentary type thing. So it's like, it's literally just people, and it's like they make dumb comments and you're like, oh, this is a ridiculous comment. And this is a ridiculous thing. But it was funny. And it was all done in Office style, like the style of the original Office.
I guess my question is something along those lines is like, was it enough that it didn't sound completely scripted? Because that's one of the things that the mockumentaries that I like, the ones that get me the most are the ones that are super dry, are the ones that's like, okay, every one of these lines is so obviously written and rewritten and edited. So like when there's a mockumentary where it is organic enough so that it seems like a lot of it is improvised, I can get into some of those. And so that's a big thing for me. It's just like, if it seems super polished, then I lose interest. Like Modern Family, I lose interest in that because that is so fine combed and so uber polished. Like The Office was probably more off the cuff. Like you can't hold Steve Carell down. Like he's just gonna do his own thing. And then the same thing with the British version. And then I would assume that like Trailer Park Boys isn't the same kind of thing. Mockumentaries, like they're following around, Canadian trailer park guys. I believe they're in Saskatchewan. But anyways, they like the whole idea is that like it's supposed to be like what the real world was when it first started, but like obviously humorous and intentionally humorous. So like the ones that are organic and the ones that feel like they feel at least the illusion is complete, that it's not completely and totally scripted and planned out. That's at least that's about as far as I can go into the mockumentary, because we've talked about this. This is a running thing in the history of the show for me, is that I have a really hard time with mockumentaries. Like I just don't like The Office. I appreciate and I respect. I wasn't a huge fan, but I went through some episodes. It's one of those things that you started and then it wasn't like it wasn't something that I got into and went all the way to the end type thing. But like this thing here, when I saw the previews for the show, I think that might be something that I would probably be interested in as well. So like, do you think the show's is this show the same people? Is it like the same stuff?
It's gonna be the same story, the same thing. They're reinventing it. I think it'll be a slightly different, but because it was just a movie. I think it'll be slightly different, but one of the British guys, and I don't know his name. I should look this up, I guess. But one of the British guys, I'm going to look this up. But one of the British guys, he was in the IT office.
It's a giant tangent rant, so just real time that shit. Whatever, who cares? This entire episode one of the guys to the wolves.
Yeah, one of the guys is in the IT crowd, and I don't know if you've ever seen that.
It's in the same, yeah.
That show's actually amazing. If you've never watched the IT crowd, you should. And like, yeah, you really should. It's just, I don't know. It's off the chart.
The IT crowd, the IT crowd is definitely, I don't know. So I would say like that's like millennial crack. Like that's the kind of stuff that like our generation, where I'm 34, and like that's the kind of stuff that we've grown up with. The things and the jokes that they have basically on that show is like it's like internet jokes.
There you go. Matt Berry is the guy's name.
Okay, and what about Matt Berry?
So Matt Berry's in the original, and he's also in the IT crowd, and he's going to be in the new one. So he's like the common theme between all of this, and he's hilarious. He also does Toast of London. That's the other thing that he's known for is he does this thing called Toast of London, which is amazing too if you've never seen that.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen that, but I know this guy. He's done a whole bunch of voice work. I mean, I've seen there's a whole bunch of stuff that he's done, Aqua Teen Hunger Force and stuff like that. I'm looking through his IMDb right now. Like he's done a whole bunch of stuff along those lines, but like as far as things that like I know he's in Disenchantment as well, which the Netflix thing that Matt Groening and everything they did. So like in Portlandia, that was pretty cool. But yeah, I've seen the guy a whole bunch of times. He's one of those people that you see, and you're like, yeah, that guy. And he's been in a bunch of different things. He's all over the place here and there. But you never know his name. So like he's what they call a classic character actor, where it's like his career is basically taking on as like a chameleon, taking on a role of the character needed for the story, but he himself never becomes such a phenomenon that he can really, you know what I mean? Like if you hire Brad Pitt to be, I don't know, some famous literary character. So like you want Brad Pitt to be, I don't know, Gimli the elf in Lord of the Rings or something like that, or Gimli the dwarf in Lord of the Rings. Like that makes no sense because you'll never be able to separate the guy from who he's playing. And so, you know what I mean? Like, so like every once in a while, like when you're watching a movie of like a character that you know who that character is, or even if it's an actor who's so famous that you can't look at the character that he's supposed to be playing. He can't disappear because his persona is so big. This guy here is like one of the perfect ones where he can play whoever he wants. He's just a little bit below the level that he's recognizable, and so he can actually pull it off. I recognize him, but I couldn't place his or pull his name with. Apparently he's done music too, some kind of acid jazz music. So
he has it's crazy. He's off the charts. He's off the charts. An amazing character and everything. So I don't know. It's if you
the
like
Mighty
that,
Boosh.
Yeah. If you like that type of
Boosh.
If you like that type of comedy, check out What We Do in the Shadows well before the new one comes out in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, it's going to be out. Just kind of like Arrested Development Season 5 Part 2 comes out the end of this week. And I can't wait for that. But I'm actually more excited for What We Can Do in the Shadow. Like, it's just, for me, that's, after I saw that, I was like, all right, fine. Damn it, kid. You're right. That's a good show or a good movie. Screw you for like understanding
Not so much
what
that,
I like.
That's like a high five moment. Like, well done. But that's one of those things where it's like dad is no longer the guy who's on the cutting edge of like what's cool. That's something that I'm expecting to happen soon enough, is to be like where I intentionally, and I'm specifically trying to stay on top of like, when you hear about like the app that all the kids are using, like I try to keep up with that stuff. The reason being is because the parent who's behind the curve misses the things that all the kids are doing to like sneak around. So like I'm trying intentionally now to like be like a responsible parent by participating in weird social media, if that makes any sense at all. But like this is the same kind of thing where it's like your kid just he just pulled a fast one. He's like, Dad, I know that you like all these things, but I got you. How about you just shut up and sit down in the next chair, and I'll take care of this. And then you're like, yeah, you know what? You got this. That was pretty good.
Yeah, especially when you introduce a little bit of weed, everything's better. But
oh yeah, it's like, hold on, I gotta go. I gotta take care of business. I'll be back in a moment.
I'm gonna let the dog pee. I'll be back.
Yeah. And then you're just like, man, all these jokes are amazing.
Exactly. And it's kind of the same thing. I've introduced my children to board games, for example. It's one of those things they've highly enjoyed. We play a lot of board games in my house. I have 3 like movie closet
shelves.
Things full.
Yeah.
3 full things. Not just 3 shelves. Like I have
your house has more board games in it than some bookstores that I've been in.
Exactly. Oh yeah, hands down. And it was kind of funny because at work this week we were talking about this, and I was okay. Here you go. All right, I'll bring this whole thing around. At work, I was ribbing the HR lady a little bit about team things. So we've been doing all these management exercises, blah blah blah. And she, her and I were talking, and she's in charge of what does the team do? How do we celebrate success? Blah, blah, blah. I said, well, we should do team events. Like, we should go to one of those escape rooms. I would do that.
Oh, man.
It's a team building event.
Do you think that would be a team building event, or do you think that would be something that would make people hate each other?
Oh, at first it'll make you hate, and then when you all succeed, you'll all be like, I hate you, but I think you good job. Right?
Okay.
And so...
But what if you don't succeed? Then you just you
well,
never.
Then we probably all
hate
hate everybody. But I don't know. I don't know. I've never been to one where I didn't succeed. I've only been to a few.
I guess if everybody was really into it, maybe like where you're like, okay, what are we gonna do? We're gonna try to solve it. Like I imagine. I don't know if I have enough friends that would be like serious about it, and that would bug me.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know. I don't know either. But we were talking about that, and then it kind of led into, I was like, well, I own a lot of board games. We could do team building games. And this kid this guy that was working with me, he's like, well, why would we do team building games? Why don't we do games where we compete against each other? And I was like, well, that's not really good for building team
That's the antithesis of this entire exercise. You should shut up and go in the closet.
But that's what he wants. Like, he wants it because he bought this Switch game called Wargroove, which in fairness is actually a really cool game. and it's a tactical battle game, and everybody has different characteristics, and it's really hard. In fairness, it's a really hard game. It's like Risk on steroids. We'll put it that way.
But it's basically a pen and paper RPG.
No. It's a strategic war game. That's what it is.
Cool.
Risk is a strategic war game. This is just a this is a reduced but more complex strategic war game, essentially, as a video game method of delivering the product. And so
That's
bought it was $20, so I bought it. We had some gift cards, so we bought it, and I played them once and got trounced. And then I was like, screw this, I'm going to play this. And then my son and I play this every once in a while, and I play it personally, and it's a really good game. But I was like, we don't want that type of a game. We want a team building game. And then the HR director, she's like, well, do you have those? And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, I have this game called Den of Winter. And she's like, oh, what's that? I was like, well, it's a game where we all play in an apocalypse scenario where we're trying to survive the zombies. And she's like,
that's the way it always is. It's like us versus the zombies.
She's like, so it's like Walking Dead. I was like, no, it's better than Walking Dead. She's like, how is it better than Walking Dead? I was like, because that show sucks. I was like, I hate that show. And she's like, seriously? And I was like, yeah. I was like, but this game is awesome. And it's team building. I was like, we also have a game called Mansions of Madness. And she's like, okay, what's that? And I was like, well, that's like D&D Light. And she's like, what? And I was like, well, the second edition, you get an app. It tells you the story. You have little game board pieces and characters and enemies, and they all come into play. And the iPad and the story tells you what to put down. Whereas the first edition, you had a booklet that you had to have a dungeon master for, essentially.
Yeah, so like the iPad replaces the dungeon master?
Yeah. So
that's
that way
cool,
you can
because
all do
I've
that.
always liked that. I've always liked the idea that like if you have like kind of like a secular or a sentient but removed dungeon master. So like I've heard some people is like when you have someone who's not very good at being an experienced guide, so like the dungeon master is just kind of a jerk. Like it's not as much fun. But like if you remove some kind of like human bias or whatever, that might be a little bit more of a, I guess, in the middle or an average experience or whatever, like where it's not varied so much by the person who's running the game. Essentially, it's like I see some people make it like really, aggressive and ridiculous, or fun, or super light and super easy. You kind of have like some kind of a nice average medium that makes the game consistent for all the people that are going to be playing it.
Yeah, exactly. And this takes that out of there, right? And that's the thing. And now I was explaining it to her. I was like, and this one we could do. And I was like, if you want to get competitive, we can do, I have a Game of Thrones board game that nobody will play with me. Because it's a pretty complex game, but it's like...
Wait, I don't understand why anybody wouldn't play it. Like, everybody loves that show. Why wouldn't anybody want to play it?
I don't have a lot of friends. I'm kind of a loser. So if I had more friends, it would probably be easier. But like you can't play with 3 people. Like, and it's a 4 to 6 hour game. It says like on the box. Like, it's not like this short game you play. It's a long game.
This is the kind of thing you go to like I guess a local card show or a card seller or whatever. They have like their game days on Saturdays or something where like you go and like you find people and then you have like a full on afternoon.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
And the board game store in Zeeland actually does some of that.
There's one right by my house that does it. It's awesome, but I just never gone. It's like
out of the box.
Gold Mine or something like that. Like Gold Mine cards.
That's Gold Mine Comics. But Out of the Box is down the street, and that's the board game store you want to go to. Gold Mine Comics does that, but they do look at Star Wars Destiny, Magic the Gathering. They don't do...
Yeah, that's what I've seen.
It's
doing,
more
like
card stuff, which is fine. That's what their specialty. If you go to Out of the Box, like if I lived in Kentwood, I actually would go to the Out of the Box in Kentwood, because like my son and I just happened to be in that area for something else, for some other thing. Actually, I think we were there for your daughter's birthday party one weekend, and we were in that area. And then he's like, hey, you want to go do a board? Yeah, you want to go to a board game store, Dad? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. And so we went in there, and there's like all these people playing, and they're all in there playing. And it's like, Yeah. Yeah, if I lived in Kentwood, that would be awesome. They do some of that in Zealand, too. The same store actually is in Zealand, and I have a membership there. I actually have a membership there. But, I have so many kids and so many things going on, but
yeah,
you're right. This is
like the longer games, though, like that, the Game of Thrones game, basically, like, you can't play that unless you have to coordinate with, like, a whole bunch of people. So, like, if you do one of those things, like, some kind of event or whatever, you just bring your game in, and it's like if everybody wants to play that game or something.
Yes. So it depends. Okay. In the Kentwood store, they have a special night that's designed for long board games. Like, they, advertise this night is for if you want to play a game, like, they call them 1800XX series games. And essentially they're, like, Monopoly on steroids with strategy. So it's like Monopoly and strategy on steroids. That's the simplest explanation I can give you for an 1800 style game. And so, like,
basically you're investing, a quarter of your day into this thing. Like, this is a big. So, like, the payout, like, is the game as good? No, so, like, basically you invest 4 hours into a game. Is it really that much fun?
Sometimes, yes. So, like, we have a game called Talisman. And this is an older 80s game. It came out in the 80s, late 80s, I believe, early 90s. And they have different versions, different editions. I love that game. My son loves that game. You have to play cooperative to begin with, and then you slowly become stronger, and then you can branch off and not have to play cooperative and be a dick. And you can, like, it's a solo mission. And the whole point is to get, like, the crown. And once you get to the crown, the command crown, you can, like, it's a roll of a dice to kill people. That's all it is. But that game is really fun. That game, the first time we played that game was 4.5 hours. Like, the first time we ever played that. It's just a long game. You're taking a couple of breaks here and there, and just like, okay, everybody, we're going to take a 10-minute break to go do something? Or is this, like, just a marathon session? Sit down, hold your piss. Everybody's going to be crying at the end. I think it depends. When we play board games at my house, it depends. If it's all adults and they smoke, there's smoke breaks.
Wow,
Whether
okay.
it's
so it's like a decompression moment.
There's smoke break. But, when we have the kids, like, my sons like to play this stuff. So, like, we don't get smoke breaks. What'll happen is it'll be get up to change the the dog's got to pee, get up to change the music, get up and make yourself a drink, get up and get some soda, that type of thing.
Yeah, when everybody's drink is empty, it's time to take a break.
Yeah. And we do it throughout the game, and you can stand up. I mean, my wife will tell you she hates it. We've ruined more tables because, like, I'll get up and I'll stand and I'll lean on my table, and it's like, stop putting pressure on the table, and it's like, I'm sorry, but you get so intense. Like, I'll stand at my table and I'll put my elbows on it.
Yeah, and, like, you're, like, damaging your table somehow.
Well, yeah, it weakens it because, I mean, I don't buy, like, $2,000 pieces of furniture.
Oh, so, like, just like it'll make it like creaky.
Mm-hmm. It just weakens it a little bit, but either which way. Anyway, we do different things. If we play D&D, we do take breaks. If we play for more than 3 hours, there's always a break of some sort. Whether it's take the dog out, or let's make a little bit of food. Let's make chips and cheese. Let's make floats. I don't know. There's different things we do. Because half the time with the D&D, unfortunately, what happens is we'll start out on a Friday night at like 7, and we've already made dinner and just finished dinner, and it'll be my buddy and I will have had already a couple of drinks plus the dinner, and then we'll have a couple of more drinks, and then by 11 o'clock we're drunk enough that this is just a comedy show for us, and, like, I'll be the asshole that's like, well, what if my guy could jump off a wooden plank, jump on the wall, down, shit on your head, and pull an axe and chop your head off?
So basically, when you're drunk, you do medieval parkour.
Yes.
That's basically what you're describing.
I'm medieval parkour. I'm that guy. Yeah, so, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so So sometimes it's a little harder, but
well, that's what I'm saying. It's like the board game stuff. Like sometimes I can start off serious, sometimes it's always serious, sometimes it's more lighthearted or whatever. Because like I literally I don't have any experience along these lines. Like the closest I have to it is like everyone has the Monopoly story where like friendships were lost, families were broken, family reunions were altered forever, that kind of thing. Like so like the board games that last a long time, like that's pretty cool. I think it's awesome that like you can have what I used to experience in video gaming, my 3-4 hour sessions where I would sit down just because I had no other responsibilities, so I'd be able to do something like that and just be like, for me though, like it's kind of like reading a book. Like when you're removing yourself and you're completely enveloping yourself into a storyline and experiencing something. Like when you're doing a board game like this, can you really, with other people, like like I said, like you're taking breaks or whatever, can you really find yourself fully immersed in something like that? Because like, yes. I always find it's just like with other people, I find it hard to believe that like everybody would also be able to get into it, which would be cool, but I'm skeptical that people would all be able to get on that same wavelength.
So the answer is yes, it can happen. You have to have people that really enjoy that to do that. And I have a story, like there's a friend in high school. I was friends with this guy and his brother in high school. Very good friends, actually. And we drifted apart, as the years went on. Randomly last year, and I think I told this story in the show a while ago, but randomly I ran into him at a Jimmy John's by my work. And we reconnected, and we've actually hung out at multiple times. And we both sobered up a lot. There's a lot less alcohol. That's
time.
Cool.
Time has a thing to do that.
And we both settled down. But I told him I like board games, and we were over at his house one weekend, and he was just okay, hey, I got these board games. You guys want to play Monopoly? It's like, oh, no. And he's like, no, come on. You said you like board games. All right, fine, we'll play Monopoly. He is the most aggressive Monopoly player I've ever played with. I mean, it's literally like he literally would have spent 8 hours nickeling and diming us because he owned a little bit more property, but not enough to put hotels or houses on. But he owned enough that he would have nickeled and dimed us if he could, all the way down for 8 hours.
He's a gentrifier, is what you're saying.
Yes. And eventually I was like, okay, well, I'll trade you this red property for this orange. He's like, well, it's worth more. I want $500. I'm like, that's more than what this property worth. If I do you just want the $500? No, I want $500 in this property. I'm
you know what, your new friend's a ticket scalper. That's what I'm going to say right there.
Yes, he is. He is.
And
he was happy to play the game because he owned like 40% of the property. His wife owned 20%. I own 20%, and then my other two kids own 10% or something like that, right? And he was happy to nickel and dime us. And after 3 hours, I finally I was like, we got to go. And he's like, oh, you're just leaving because you're losing. I'm like, I'm not losing by that much. No offense. This is not fun to me. This is you aren't trading. You are literally saying you're like gaslighting me into trading with you to have fun. And then you're going to win. And then it's not going to be fun for me because I didn't win, and I'm going to be angry. And then I'm going to get angry at you, and I don't want to do that. So maybe we should play a game that has more strategy than just buying and selling properties that we randomly land on. Fuck that.
This is the thing. Like, if the board games and stuff that that you play, and the things that you really like with, when you play with a lot of friends or whatever, like, if those essentially, once they're fully into the game, like once it gets to a certain point, one person has amassed more wealth, more power, more experience, or whatever measure units that the board game has. When it loses its luster and it becomes unfun because someone has everything. Like the games, I'm assuming the games that you have aren't particularly like that, but like Monopoly is is traditionally that is essentially that is the diagram of it. It is the diagram of capitalism where things slowly aggregate towards the top, and then one person has everything. They just use their Trumpian methods to just bludgeon you into oblivion, and like that the whole thing, like, it's just not enjoyable. It's like I think most people in the U.S., when they think of board games, like your friend, they're just like, Monopoly, that's a board game, haha. And you're like, no, you don't understand. Like, everything can be so much more enjoyable and so much better than the Monopoly experience. Because that's what I think most people think of when they think of, like, the, board game experience. It's like, it's what I come to is, shoots and ladders and those kinds of things when you're younger, when you're a kid, you're learning to play board games. And then you kind of hit that Monopoly thing where you're like, this sucks. Like, this is adult, this is adult board games. These are stupid. And then you never play any board games after that. Like, people have just like a negative thing and they never go on past that. And I am one of those people. I had friends that played D&D and they loved it. Tabletop D&D, they had their 4th edition books out, and they always did all kinds of stuff like that. I never got into it, and I probably would have really liked it, but in the end, what I really gravitated towards was like the single player experience, kind of just like drifting away from humans for a little bit, playing games in my basement or playing games in my bedroom or whatever. But like, I guess basically the thing is like, if those games can offer you something where it's not so abrasive, and in the end where everybody's just yelling at each other, then that's cool. And so like, I'm assuming that's kind of what you have. So like, how do some of those games end? Like, like a big game, like a 4-hour game, like, does it end where it's like one person is like, I'm the Game of Thrones guy, I own all the swords and I cut all your heads off? In
the Game of Thrones game, yes, that's how that ends. In Talisman, that's how it ends. It does end that way. It's a journey, but it ends that way. In Dead of Winter,
it's a 5-finger bitch slap where you're just like, you lost that game. Poop. Yep. You know what I mean? Like,
it does. There's other games that don't. Like Dead of Winter that I was telling you about. That doesn't. Dead of Winter, Mansions of Madness. Neither one of those do. Neither one of those are like you win together. Mansions of Madness has like the ability to
that's the one you said for like HR or whatever. So like, obviously it can't have like together, a singular winner. But if you
get hurt too much, you get a side quest where you could be the only person that wins. But it's just not as often. It doesn't happen as much. I don't know. Like, there are those out there. We play those. I like those games too. I hated cooperative games for a long time, and then now I found after playing D&D. Cooperative games are kind of my thing. I like those. So I think it kind of depends.
I can see you liking that just from what we've talked about in your job experience and some of the stuff in your history. I can see you being a good manager, someone who likes to kind of like partake with the group as opposed to the lone soldier who you're not the gunslinger in the West who rides alone. Like,
just sometimes. But most of the time, not.
Yeah, most of the, it's like, have you seen the Coen Brothers, the new movie they have, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs?
Yes.
You're not Buster.
Not all the time. Once in a while.
Every once in a while, you feel like you want to sit on your horse and sing yourself a ballad.
Yeah. Just not all the time. So.
Yeah, I tell you what, if you could pull out in a moment where I could yell "pan shot," I would play that game because that was one of the best. The guy that they used to play, he played Milton in Office Space, was the guy who was the crazy banker who did the pan shot thing. I listened to an interview the other day. It was insane. It's just a random note on that one.
Exactly. I don't know. Well, we'll have to get together and play board games. We'll get your wife involved, my wife involved, whatever we have to do. For those of you that have maintained and listened to us for the last hour and 20 minutes, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a Ramblecast tangent of all sorts where we've explained board games, metal, and fuck all. So thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be back next week with a more serious Cellar Door Skeptics talking about Trump's budget and some other science thing Hannah wanted to talk about that I don't care that much about. But we'll be back talking about it. Replication crisis. Anyway, thank you all for joining us. We'll be back next week with another amazing Cellar Door Skeptics.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker. CellarDoorSkeptics.com.
If you'd like to join the ranks of Patreons and sponsor the show, head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. For less than a 20-ounce soda or an energy drink each week, you can help sponsor us, the hosts, and our charity of choice. Patreon helps Cellar Door Skeptics create better content, become better activists, and it's going to help you stay healthier by drinking one less soda or one less energy drink each week. Click the link in the notes of the show to sponsor us today because we bring the discussion with the sources.